Most of the SEO and content people I know check their competitor's website from an SEO standpoint once a quarter. They panic for a week, make a list of things to fix, and then forget about it. But I built an AI agent that watches 3 of my biggest B2B SaaS competitors every single day completely on its own. It tells me what they published, what keywords are they targeting in the last day, week, or whatever time period you're tracking, whether my website ranks for that keyword or not, what is the format of the page required if I really want to win on that keyword, and lastly, the most important one, is it even worth it to fight for that keyword opportunity for my website, for my brand? This agent runs competitor analysis while I sleep. It pings me on Slack every morning. And the surprising thing is, I built this entire thing by just talking to Claude code. In this video, I'll show you how this automation works end to end, starting with this input screen where you give it your website URL, to this dashboard where it shows you all of the opportunities of your competitors that it found, and to this Slack alert message that it sends summarizing all of the analysis that it has done. I'll also show you how this tool works under the hood, what's the backend logic and the workflow sequence step by step. We'll look at everything that you need in order to build this on your own, all of the APIs that you need to collect, the Slack integration, and since I'm using Claude Code to build this, I'm gonna give you the main ingredient, the actual prompt, for free. There's a link in the description which will take you to a form which, if you fill out, you're going to get access to this Google Doc, which is a detailed prompt where you can just plug your APIs at the top and get this system built in your Claude Code. So let's dive in. Alright, so before anything, I want to give you an actual demo of this product. So you have this screen, which is the main input screen, where you give it your website URL. We're going with Modash, the company that I lead SEO and AEO for. So we're going to hit Analyze. Now it's fetching your competitors' information and generating company context. So those are the two things that it's doing, right? It's one, identifying what are the main competitors of your brand, and also fetching a short blurb based on your website that describes your company accurately. As you can see, there's a spoiler of different APIs being used. We have Ahrefs and Claude and many others that we will talk about in a minute. So as you can see, it took a couple of seconds, but finally we have this company context, which is a short paragraph talking about Modash. So Modash is an influencer marketing platform that helps e-commerce brands manage paid partnerships, affiliate programs, and gifting campaigns, etc. I can edit this if it feels a little off. I can make changes. If not, I can just let it be. Next on, we have a list of competitors detected. So it's talking about FeedSpot, Collabster, Hype Auditor, and again, I can remove any of these and add additional competitors as a replacement or in addition to this list already. So the very first step is trying to remove some friction for the user. It's giving you the company context so you don't have to add it, and it's also giving you a head start with a list of competitors that you can work with. You can of course make changes if you need to. As an example, I'm going to add 2 more competitors to this list. I'm going to add Upfluence.com, and then I'm also going to add Grin. So again, we just paste the URL and click add. Now I might also want to remove a few, so I'm going to remove FeedSpot. I think Influencer Hero is fine. Favicon is still largely fine. So it's all good. Now we hit start tracking. This is where it starts analyzing your competitors' pages in a lot of depth. Again, you can see different APIs that it's using, and it shows about 30 seconds of a time period that it needs in order to process everything. Alright, so we have the results now inside this dashboard, which basically summarizes everything that the agent was able to find on all of the competitors listed. What it does is it finds in the last 7 days or whatever time period you're looking for, all of the content that all of your listed competitors have published on the website. So it would be things like Collabster published a page for Instagram fake follower checker. What is the target keyword? It's fake follower checker for this page. Its search volume, you can see it right here, the keyword difficulty, and then their format, right? So it will highlight, is it a blog post? Is it a landing page? Is it others, which normally constitutes any kind of free tool or anything else? Then on top of it, it also highlights whether you're already ranking for this or not, right? So in this case, you can see it's Modash's own fake follower checker page, which is ranking number 3 for this keywords. Next up is the format matching. So this is another data point that it highlights. What it's doing is looking at the SERPs for the target keyword that it identified from your competitor, and from the SERP analysis, it's looking at your page and then drawing a conclusion. Does your ranking page already matches the requirement of the SERPs. If the dominant content format in the SERPs is noted to be a blog post and you've created a calculator of some sort, and that's why you're not ranking, maybe you can amend that, right? So this is basically to give you an idea of, have you met the search intent in terms of the content format that was required? And of course, based on that, it's going to give you a recommendation, which is in this case, hey, you need a free tool. Now, in this case, it was not able to find exactly what was the content format of the competitor, so it categorized it to others. And that's why it says that you need to differ from competitors, although we already have a free tool version of it. Finally, it gives you a relevance score out of 10, so you can prioritize opportunities. And of course, at the top, it shows you a preview of all of the data points. So for example, we have new pages detected, which is about 13 in the last 7 days across all of the competitors. Next, how many keywords out of those 13 pages do we already rank for? 2. Not ranking for 5. Low ranking, or the ones that are skipped out of this, are about 6. So anything between 1 or 3 relevance score typically gets dropped from this list. And then high priority gaps are noted to be about 5 in total. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I've been calling this an AI agent, although it just looks like a tool, right? So you give it an input field, which is a website. It then generates an AI-generated list of competitors and a company blurb, and then finally it gives you all of this data. But it is agentic in a way that, number one, I don't actually have to run this. It just runs on itself. I still wanted a dashboard so I can just go back in time and look at history, right? For example, we have here this last 7 days, 60 days of data collected. So over time, you can see what has been the progression from your competitor's strategy standpoint. Normally, the system will just run itself on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, whatever cadence you want. And then the second part is that in the pursuit of making this agentic, we have an LLM making decisions using different APIs. So we have Claude's API that we're using to turn this more agentic, more autonomous, which in a way is controlling what kind of opportunities it picks, suggests, or drops, and then finally highlights the most important updates in a Slack alert message. As an example, it's one of the Slack morning alerts that you would receive saying something like Collabster published a fake follower checker page on their website. The recommendation is that you create this page as soon as possible. Its target keyword is fake follower check. It's also highlighting where do we rank right now. So it's highlighting the page that it detected in the SERPs. We're ranking number 3. And it also summarizes in 1 or 2 lines what it noted inside the SERPs. So for example, it says the SERP is dominated by interactive service pages that actually perform, etc., etc. Now, all of this gets pushed into Slack as an alert message on any cadence that you want. For example, if we now go into Slack, we're going to see this message, the latest one from this competitor content tracker, which is a Slack app that we created for this tool. And what it sends us is the same data. So new pages, how many of those were ranking for, the gaps, the low relevance ones which were dropped. And as you can see, the same insights that we just looked at, the Collabster piece, Hype Auditor published a post, Influencer Hero, all of that stuff right into our Slack inbox. So now forget the dashboard part. Imagine you're inside Slack, you're working, and you have a channel where you're constantly seeing on a weekly basis or maybe on a daily basis, what is the new post that one of your competitors recently published? Maybe a keyword that you didn't think about. Maybe a new tool that you simply couldn't ideate, or perhaps a new set of programmatic pages which reflect a new feature that they've recently launched. Everything gets sent to your Slack inbox on a particular cadence automatically without you having to worry what your competitors are doing. Honestly, a system like this would be incredibly helpful for me because as SEOs, we all just run these competitor gap analyses multiple times a year. We make some experts from Ahrefs, SEMrush doing this massive audit, finding all of the opportunities where competitors are winning but we're not. And every time some weeks or months go by, you feel this FOMO in your head that you're definitely missing out on some massive opportunities that the competitors might have capitalized on. So this system keeps you updated. All right, so one more look at the dashboard. I think I just missed something which I think is pretty cool, and then we'll get into the rest of the video talking about how you can build this, how the backend engine of this tool is working. All right, so if you click on any of these opportunities, so we have, for example, this one from Influencer Hero, you click on this particular page, it will give you a lot of additional insights that it has collected for you. And this is again everything that you can pack inside a dashboard. You will not be able to look at it inside a Slack message, otherwise it will be like too lengthy. So you can still have the spy mode on using Slack, but if you want more detailed insights or you want to go back in time, you can use this dashboard. So this is where you will find stuff like relevance reasoning. Why was this opportunity given a relevance score of 6, for example? And it says the relevance score is moderate. It's creator wedding feature, but not the core platform functionality, which makes sense. It's one of the features, but it's not necessarily the main one for that particular competitor. And the same stuff for SERP analysis. It gives you a more detailed view. So talking about how the SERP is dominated by functional service pages, 9 out of 10 times, then actually provide fake follower checking tools, not informational content. So it gives you a pretty good directional view of what kind of pages you need to create in order to really win. Meaning, in this case, it actually noted that this page was created targeting this particular keyword, but it's under resources, which is most likely a blog post. But the recommended format is actually a free tool. So if you were to look at it inside Slack and say, oh, they published a blog post, this dashboard will give you more view into why still the recommended format is a free tool, because this just happens to be an anomaly. Most of the pages happen to be targeting this keyword with a free tool rather than a blog post or a landing page. All right, so I think we've covered almost everything about this tool, this dashboard, the Slack integration. What I want to show you next is how the system actually works. I'm going to pull back the curtains and show you the inside view, the backend logic in a minute. So you looked at how the system is working, right? So I'm calling this a competitor content tracker. So it's basically taking just one input from you, which is a website URL, and then it detects competitor pages, websites automatically, identifies the target keyword, check your ranking and the format that you're ranking with if you are, scores the keyword's relevance completely on its own, runs SERP analysis, and then recommends you the right content format required for that keyword. Now, the system is designed to run every 24 hours automatically, or you can change the cadence to something like a weekly basis, right? And it will give you in output a live dashboard that we just looked at, where you find every single page, every single keyword for every single competitor. Then it will also give you a daily Slack alert with a few priorities that it really recommends going after. And of course, a decisions queue, right? So what to build, what to fix, what to maybe fix format of and stuff like that. So you don't open any competitor's blog anymore. It's just getting all of that information, analyzing it, doing the analysis for you, and then finally giving you the key insights inside Slack so you can start making decisions. So that's a lot of time and energy saved for you, so you can actually attack opportunities rather than trying to find them all the time. So let's get into how the tracker actually works. So what's happening in the backend? What's the workflow sequence, right? So there are a couple of APIs that we're using. Number one is the Findhouse API. This was released by the Ahrefs team, which is amazing. It's a real-time web crawling monitoring software API. Then we have Ahrefs' own API. Ahrefs made their API available, I think, maybe 1 or 2 months back to all paid plans, which is awesome. So we're using it for keyword rankings, SERPs data, all of that kind of stuff. And then finally, we have Anthropic API. So it's basically just Claude as an LLM being used for relevance scoring and recommendations. Plus, it's also being used to make decisions across all of these different tools. That's what makes it more agentic. So let's look at the actual workflow sequence, right? What's happening step by step. So when you give it a URL, it detects pages, new pages on the competitor's website. So Findhouse Stream watches each competitor domain 24/7, right? It's constantly monitoring all of the competitors that you give it once. So you don't actually have to give it every single time. It's just one-time workflow that I wanted to show you. But if you'd really be using something like this as a system, you would just plug your competitors in, your own website in, and then it will continue the monitoring on a regular cadence on its own. Then in step 2, it's classifying those pages to different formats. The good thing is Findhouse API has a built-in page type field, so it can map which pages happens to be blogs or landing pages or free tools, which is awesome. And then in step 3, it's finding the target keyword. This is where Claude's API and Ahrefs API are going to work together to find the most relevant organic keywords that the page already ranks for, and it can potentially be targeting. So it gives you one target keyword. In the next step, it enriches the volume data, the keyword difficulty data from Ahrefs Keyword Explorer. So you find the search volume, the keyword difficulty score, and then it checks your own ranking. Since you've given it your website URL, Ahrefs Site Explorer is now being used from the API, of course, and it finds whether we're already ranking, what URL is ranking, what format is ranking for our own website. In the next step, it's giving all of those keyword opportunities that it found a keyword relevance score. So this is again where Claude's API is being used, and the context that you approved at the start when you were plugging all of your data into the product is being used to give it a score from 1 to 10. Typically skips opportunities that fall into 1 to 3. And of course, in the same way, all of the opportunities that have a score of more than 7 are going to become top priorities. Then finally, it also adds strategic recommendations. So this is where Ahrefs SERP overview, right? The overview of how many pages, what kind of pages are ranking in Google for that target keyword, and Claude can work together to say what kind of content format seems to be winning. So this can give you a data point on what you need on your page, what kind of a page you need to build in order to win for that keyword. Because again, finding that gap with competitors is one thing, but knowing what to build in order to win is totally another. And then finally, it enriches the page's record, blending everything together to give you a keyword, a format, relevance, status, and recommendation. So this is everything that the workflow, this agent is doing for us in a sequence of steps. And of course, in the output, we're basically getting this web dashboard, which currently I'm running on my local host. You can filter, sort, expand rows. You can open it anytime in full details. You can go back in time, look at history, a lot of stuff. And you're also looking at a Slack alert, which is posted via incoming webhooks. There are top 3 priorities highlighted. So it's giving you some key insights, and it's basically 5-second morning scan, right? You just look at it on a weekly basis, every morning, whatever cadence you want to go with. And it just gives you everything you need without having to open multiple tabs and multiple tools. All right. So we've looked at everything that this agent does for us, how it works, what's happening, step by step. Let's move on to the most exciting part now, which is how to build this competitor content tracker on your own using Claude. So here's everything you need. You need a Firehouse API key. So you can sign up at firehouse.com, which is currently free in beta mode, used for real-time competitor page detection, right? So this is the use case that we're currently using it for. It's basically a web scraping API, which is currently being used for free. Then we have Ahrefs API key, which is available to all paid plans at this point. You can also use something else. For example, data for SEO or SERP API would also be good options. But we're basically using it for all of the SEO stuff. So keyword rankings, SERP analysis, etc. On number 3, we have Anthropic API key, basically just using Claude as an LLM. So you can use their pay-as-you-go model. It's not going to be a lot of cost, and it's basically being used for relevance scoring and recommendations. Anthropic's API is also the strategic player that makes this entire workflow agentic. So it's the LLM of Claude that's making some decisions, which makes it really exciting. And then finally, we have Slack integration, which is an incoming webhook. So in simple words, you actually have to build a Slack app, which I know sounds complicated, but it literally is a 5-minute setup. And of course, we're using it for posting daily updates to your channel. Once you have all of these APIs and integrations, you need a single prompt, which you can find in the description of this video. If you just fill out a form, it will take you to a Google Doc where you can get the prompt completely in full. And that's basically telling Claude Code what to build. So if you just give all of the APIs into that prompt, it's going to build this exact thing for you. The only manual action still needed would be Firehouse and Slack. Slack is pretty easy to figure out, so I won't cover that. But for Firehouse, I can give you a very quick 30 seconds demo. I'll come to that in a second. But basically, if you have the prompt, you paste it into Claude Code. It reads the prompt, writes all of the code, of course, fires up every API, builds a dashboard, tests it end to end, and makes sure that it's working. And then lastly, you're going to have the working tool on your laptop if you're running it locally. And of course, you can also deploy it if needed as a dashboard and Slack updates running properly. Total setup time, to be honest, for this was under 60 minutes, which is pretty crazy because I didn't write a single line of code. So again, thanks to LLMs just racing with each other and giving us these amazing products like Claude Code, which just feels like magic at hand. Okay, so the Firehouse API. If you have any kind of technical understanding, setting this up is again not going to be very difficult. If you still feel like you're not well used to these kind of APIs, you can just use an LLM and have it guide you step by step. Typically, if you're on Mac, you might need to run some commands inside terminal, but again, that's pretty much it, and it will give you everything that you really need. So I'll give you a quick rundown of the Firehouse API. Firehouse API is an API from the Ahrefs company, and it helps you stream the web in real time, as their website says. So what you can do basically is define rules of tracking, let's say, specific news, specific brands, competitors, and it will give you notifications as soon as any match is found. As an example, to keep it simple, you can say, I want to be notified as soon as any other mention of my company is made by any other website on the planet, as long as these conditions are true, right? Something like that. So you're basically setting up these rules of when to be notified, and it's helping you track whatever you really want to track. Now, all you have to do, as I mentioned, is just try Firehouse, log in. It's currently in beta mode, which makes it free to use, which is awesome. So once you've gone into the product, you will see a screen like this. Currently, I have a couple of active rules, as you can see, and a few tabs. Again, this language might feel new, but it's basically just two different types of keys that you need, right? One is a management key that you first need to build. As you can see, mine is here. Again, you can just click on create key. It's simply like any other API. You just play with a bunch of buttons and it gives you a key. And then the second part is creating these tabs. So these tabs happens to be those rules that you need to define in order to track whatever you want to track. Could be, as I mentioned, a news, a brand, a competitor, like we're doing in this case. So as you can see, we have competitor blog watcher, which has like 5 rules. So if I open this up, it's going to have different rules. So each of the tab will have different rules. So as I said, if you want to track something, if you want to track brand mentions, that will become a tab. But then it will have rules of when to track brand mentions, what kind of mentions. Should it have a particular kind of surrounding anchor text, a particular positioning, all of that stuff. So as you can see, we have a couple of different rules being tracked for different companies like Upfluence, which is one of the competitors, Hype Auditor, Grin, Aspire. So I just made a list of different competitors in the space that we wanted to set up this automation for and try to create these rules covering everything that we can in order to look at what they've published in the last few days, weeks on their blog. Now, this API, once you've set it up properly, you have the management key, the tab, and a bunch of different rules inside that tab, runs basically like a 24-hour crawler and does what you have already defined. So in this case, basically in simple plain words, it's going on to those competitors' website and every single day they're collecting data and saying, hey, in the last 24 hours, they published this one new blog post. And then the rest of the tool, as you already saw, is trying to find the appropriate keyword, doing the relevance scoring, enriching search volume and keyword ability data. All of that stuff is happening afterwards once Firehouse has identified that page based on these rules that we've defined. All right, so we've covered the Firehouse API. Now the second part, as I mentioned, we need a Slack app of some sort. So you basically just go into api.slack.com/apps. So if I just share my screen right here, you can see I already have these two set up, one for Modash, the company that I work at. And then secondly, this content tracker, competitor tracker that we've built, right? This is the workspace of Organic Labs. So in order to build a new app, you have to click on create new app. You click on from scratch, where it's basically asking you, do you want to build it from scratch or pick from a template of some sort? And then mention your app name, pick a workspace based on all of the different workspaces that you have on Slack, and then click on create app. Once you have done your authorization for that workspace, it will take you to a screen like this where you have a bunch of different options for your app. For this one, for this competitor content tracker that we built, things are pretty simple. For other ones, you can define multiple events. You can allow it to write something, take other kind of actions. But for this one, we're only using it as an incoming webhook. So we're going to click here and then toggle this on, which is already on for this one, of course. And if you scroll down, you're going to see this section called webhook URL, which you can copy. And this is what you will need in the prompt when you're talking to Claude trying to build the system. And that's pretty much it. Wasn't it pretty easy for both Slack and Firehouse? I know some of these tools, when you're trying to use them, their integration, it just feels like a little overwhelming. But to be honest, today, it's just like extremely easy. And of course, if you still don't happen to be a very tech savvy person, you can still have an LLM walk you through each of the steps very easily. But again, the rest of the two APIs, you can just get through the accounts. If you have an Ahrefs paid account, you're going to get the API key. And of course, you can get the Anthropic API key very easily as well. As I mentioned, if you have everything that I mentioned here, all of the API keys, the integrations that we need, all you need is this one prompt, and it will literally build this in less than 60 minutes at max. Believe me, if I had all of these things at my hand, I would have just created this maybe in 15 minutes or so. I'm saying 15 minutes because in one of the runs, Claude was indeed running for like 15-20 minutes. Now, the last piece that you need, the prompt. You can find this in the description of this video. There's a form, you just fill it with your email and it will take you to this Google Doc, which has all these placeholders for APIs. Just throw your API key right in front of it and the entire thing is completely laid out. Just copy this entire thing with all of the APIs, with the webhook URL for Slack, the Firehouse tab tokens, and just throw into your Claude code and it will map everything for you end to end. So the biggest takeaway of this video is not how important competitor content tracking is. It's not how much formats or relevance scores matters, but It's the fact that you can build this entire thing today completely yourself without requiring a developer or a massive budget. You just need to know what you want, which in this case, if you've watched this far, you already perhaps do. Alright, so if this was useful, please subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot of content like this, building agentic workflows for organic growth. I also regularly try to break down what's working, what's not working from an SEO and AEO strategy standpoint on this channel. And if you have no idea who I am, you just found me through a random YouTube click or maybe a LinkedIn post. I'm Usman Akram, an organic growth strategist for B2B SaaS companies. I'm currently leading discoverability, which is a sophisticated term for SEO and AEO for an 8-figure B2B SaaS company. And I work with B2B SaaS companies on the side, building their organic growth strategies on a freelance basis. All this to say that if you consider following this channel, you're going to get the insights from someone who's actually doing the work, not just testing theories. I'll see you in the next one.